Welcome to the Reasons to Reason podcast. I'm your host and captain, Sal Galati. This is the show that's going to talk about all the things we're not supposed to: God, religion, and politics. So strap in, prepare to get offended, and maybe, just maybe, our nation can learn how to reason again. Hopefully I got an informative one for you today. Going to cover a lot of ground, try to do it as quickly as possible, efficiently as possible. Share the show, reasons2reasons@gmail.com is the email. Doing well, it's on all platforms, and appreciate you tuning in. So I'm going to cover like Antifa, the No Kings, and what's going on with immigration. Seemingly unconnected, but I see it very connected. We're going to start with some clips from the media, and everyone could say, "Oh, the media lies," and this guy says that it lies about this and lies about that, depending on the bias of the network. But when you see orchestration and you see coordination among the networks, that should clue you in, right? That should clue you in that something's going on. So I'm going to send you up. It's going to be a collage of talking heads from major news networks. The first one is the funny man turned political expert, Jimmy Kimmel. I remember when I was a kid, this guy had the Man Show, the most sexist jerk that you could ever imagine. Sure, I watched it when I was a kid, thought it was hilarious, but now he's Mr. Better Than Everyone Else and pontificating about things he knows nothing about. Charlie Kirk wasn't assassinated that long ago, and he had come out in front of everyone saying it was actually a Trump supporter that shot Charlie Kirk. Lied right through his teeth, then made it a sob story about him. But he's the first character that's going to tell you the next lie, and we'll take it from there.
There's no Antifa. This is an entirely imaginary organization. There is not an Antifa.
I don't even know what Antifa is. There is no group.
It's not even like far-right groups like the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers. Compared to right-wing extremists, Antifa-linked violence is rare and limited.
It isn't an organization. It is in many ways mythology.
It's not like the Proud Boys or the Oath Keepers, defined terrorist organizations with leadership that leads violence.
It's not a highly organized movement. It's a moniker. It's not a unified group like the Proud Boys are.
Things like Antifa are things that are thought up.
It's all in this guise of going after Antifa, which is nothing. There's no organization called Antifa.
Nobody's a member of Antifa because it doesn't exist. They are just declaring into existence something that doesn't exist.
There is no Antifa organization, so maybe that's good for social media, but it really is non-existent.
They exist on the internet in chat rooms and in 4chan and Discord and places like that, where they run discussion boards, trade tactics, documents, things like that. But none of them are called Antifa.
I don't know what you can make of that. Here's what I hear. A lot of the same words. A lot of people like that Behar that's on The View. Obviously not very intelligent, so just a puppet just being, saying what she was told to say. The words are all the same. There's coordination. And certainly everyone knows there's Antifa now. We'll talk about that later. But a couple things I want to point out. Right wing. It's always right wing. And you'll notice when they talk about the left, it's left leaning. So the radical organizations on the left that are promoting violence and all kinds of insanity are left-leaning. The people promoting freedom, free speech, sovereignty of our nation, a closed border, not subsidizing the healthcare of the world at the expense of our own citizens' well-being, that is right-wing. Proud Boys. You heard Proud Boys organization. I don't even know if you guys know what the Proud Boys are. That was a boogeyman organization. Sure, they existed. I don't know exactly what they did that was wrong. But what's funny is, during one of the Trump debates before he was elected, he was asked if he denounced the Proud Boys. And everyone made a big stink because he goes, Proud Boys, stand by and stand down. And I've had friends that use that to cite that Trump was a racist and was going to send the Proud Boys out to do an ethnic cleansing. Honestly, by the look of his face, I don't think he knew who the Proud Boys were or are. I mean, if you try to figure them out, talk about a loose-knit organization. I don't even know what they've been alleged of anything serious. But my joke to him was, I bet when I heard Proud Boys, I thought it was a gay group. I mean, so why is this such a big deal? But anyway, I digress. It should be evident to you that these people that are known liars are obviously trying to convince you that something that exists doesn't exist. Think of how many times that has happened in recent memory. And then we can look back and see it's happened a lot more than that. So I want to go back a little bit to the George Floyd riot season that we had. And I don't want to review too much here. I mean, that said, Charlie Kirk was assassinated. I don't recall any riots happening. By all accounts, a decent human being assassinated in cold blood. What happened to George Floyd was not great at all. We don't want to see that happen, but there's more to that story. From the autopsy, he probably died of an overdose. And just a guy that, he wasn't most a productive citizen. Let's put it that way. Did he deserve to die? No, but he might have died of an overdose anyway. But we burned the country down as a result, and it was promulgated by liars in the media coordinating and trying to convince us it was peaceful when it wasn't. So now we move forward to the No Kings, and I could just see how they're orchestrating it. They're trying to generate enthusiasm against Trump, which is not really there. All these gatherings are in major cities where Trump lost. But if you look at 90% of the counties in the country, Trump won, and he's popular. So liberal cities don't like Trump. Shocker. We also, if you go to the No Kings website, highly organized. I don't know who's funding it. I got a little clip from this guy, Hunter Dunn, is an interesting character. And you'll see that they give advice on how to not be detected, how to cover your digital identity, if you're illegal, how to protest. And sure, do people here that are non-citizens, can they protest? Certainly. But think about what they're protesting. And this is the issue that's hot right now, is immigration. They're protesting the fact that our government's enforcing its laws and saying, hey, if you're not a citizen, you can't be here. And the people that are non-citizens are the ones protesting, adding to these crowds that the media is highlighting all over to make it seem like there's all this unrest and agitation against Trump. The thing I noticed they're doing differently, because they knew they left a bad taste in kind of the middle of the country's mouth with all the violence and destruction of the George Floyd riots. Now its messaging is completely different. We're family friendly. I mean, you can look at the posters, what they stand for. We're peaceful, joyful. They're blowing whistles. They're singing songs. Same people that are saying that men dressed as women should dance for children in public, and that's not a problem. Now they got men dressed as dolls, like puppets, walking around and saying we're kid friendly, we're family friendly. I mean, I don't know if you want to believe it or not. That's up to you. But let's go to Hunter Dunn, the head of this grassroots, I say that in quotation marks, organization called No Kings.
We're seeing a peaceful opposition against Trump, the likes that our country hasn't seen in a long time. And it's infuriating him. He's threatening to potentially deploy the National Guard into San Francisco, which is why things like No Kings are so important, because this isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. And getting people on the ground gets people connected with those community networks, which gives them the ability to resist against Trump's regime every single day. And more importantly, it gives people the courage to stand up. There was a poll that went out that 4 of 5 U.S. troops understand their duty to disobey illegal orders. Using the military to crush peaceful dissent, using the National Guard to crush peaceful dissent is illegal. It's fascist. It's what Trump wants to do. It's what he already did in LA. And it's what he's trying to do in Chicago and Portland and Memphis and in DC, and what he's going to try to do in San Francisco. And things like No Kings give both elected officials and potentially pillars of this regime, people like the military, people like civil service employees, the courage to stand up, to risk their own jobs and livelihoods because they know that we, the people, are backing them, and that together we can stop this regime before it harms and destroys our entire country.
So this guy, Hunter Dunn, I tried finding something out about him. I can't find anything about him. It's really mysterious. This guy that's being interviewed on MSNBC, I mean, he appears in some articles regarding No Kings in particular, but I got no history on where he's from, how did he get his status, and it's interesting. But, here's what he tries to do. He's trying to create a panic that Trump, the fascist, in quotation marks, is going to send out a National Guard because there's peaceful protesters. When he sent the National Guard in L.A., that was not peaceful. That was rioting. And actually the LA citizens spoke out very loudly and said, what are you doing? That was probably the turning point as far as, wait a minute, we're like, this isn't working anymore. People don't like their cities getting vandalized. So we got to rebrand. He's trying to use Trump sending National Guard there as if Trump's going to send a National Guard on peaceful protesters. That is not going to happen. But what he did that was interesting is he revealed the playbook that has been long known as to what this is about. These aren't grassroots. You know how I know this is not grassroots? Grassroots doesn't get a spot on MSNBC, pampered, allowed to speak, say whatever he wants. This is supposed to be news. He's broadcasting and organizing his organization from cable network TV. I don't know, is he paying for that? I mean, I was involved in grassroots. We didn't get that. And actually, we know nothing about this guy. So the media on top of it covers for him. We know nothing about him. We can't figure out where he went to school, what groups he associated himself with. I'm sure there'd be a lot of beauties in there. Meanwhile, I got involved like a local little school board thing. They had all kinds of stuff about me online. The media was actually investigating me versus the corrupt school board officials that were keeping our kids locked down for COVID endlessly. This show is officially sponsored by American Rose Coffee. They're not just a coffee company. They're about fueling bold ideas and real conversations. Every roast is crafted for people who think deeply, challenge the norm, and live with purpose. If you want coffee that matches that mindset, head to AmericanRoseCoffee.com. That's American Rose Coffee. Bold coffee, bold conversations. What's supposed to happen in a free society without the media coordinating the actual protest like it's doing now and celebrating it is organically people go peacefully protest, and then the politicians, sensing that, respond accordingly. And if they don't respond accordingly, they know they're going to lose. What happens now is the political party, the DNC, has an agenda they want to execute. And they go, how can I apply pressure and pain in society and manufacture this opposition in order to get our goals? So this is from the Trump's first administration. I was going back and forth with a neighbor. We had gone back and forth for a couple of years, trying to do what everyone's saying we should do now, which is talk to the people we disagree with, try to figure out what makes them tick. She hated Trump, bought all the things that were said about him. Mainly my goal was to share the gospel with her, and we went back and forth, and she never really understood the points I was making. You know, a lot of times, as you learn things, like the first step is like being aware of what you're ignorant of, like your unconscious ignorance is something you have to get past. I talk to people often and they think they know the issue. They don't even understand the issue. So you got to walk them back. But regardless of that, during the George Floyd riots, she said something very insightful. She said, if Hillary had won this, I don't think there'd be any riots. And I said, I know there wouldn't be any riots. This is orchestrated. This was orchestrated to bring chaos to the Trump administration and make it seem like the world was burning down because he was president. And for many people who don't like conflict, that are apolitical, they just go, make it stop. Let's get this guy out. Everything will go back to normal. But what they didn't realize, normal was them getting screwed over and lied to. But she said it out loud. And I don't even think, I tried to make that point to her. She didn't even get it. And that's an evidence that it was orchestrated by the political people. Think of all the pomp and circumstance, the kneeling and the scarves and the funeral ceremony and all the coverage. It was completely orchestrated. And what? I'm to say that the media doesn't get involved in politics? Certainly they did. You heard them say that Antifa didn't exist on 20 different networks using all the same words. So let's watch now how they celebrate this No Kings, which, if you look at who's in the crowd, it's old, burnt out hippies that are out there screaming. And I'm watching these chat boards in the neighborhood, which are interesting in how those are biased and the algorithms those run. But one thing I found interesting is their complaint is who's going to cut their grass and serve their tables. That is all these people are to them. And, when it comes to the immigration, am I thrilled about grandmothers and grandfathers getting sent away to the extent that's happening in proportion to just bad people that are criminals being sent away? In Chicago, I could say, in talking to people in law enforcement, the goal was to let Tom Holman and ICE into the prisons to take out the people that they were known, and also talk to the police who knew where some of these bad guys were and let them just go and target them specifically. They were denied. They were resisted by the politicians and the government. And the deal, I said, well, in that case, we're going to just go in, and if there's people around that are in our way or we happen to come by they're going to go to. Do you think the politicians that tell you they care about the immigrant, you think if they actually cared about the immigrant, they go, you know what, that's not right. Let's just get rid of the criminals and let everyone else alone. But no, they wanted it so they could exploit it in the media. You see the scam? They're exploiting these people. They do not care. And I'm hopefully going to have an interview with a woman that's part of Chicago Flips Red, which is really exciting group because they're seeing and advocating and communicating all the hypocrisies. Black women from the South Side who had enough of the lies. We're going to talk education, immigration, but you notice she's not on MSNBC. She doesn't get her time to say her feelings. We get Pritzker telling us the city's safe and we don't want him here. Yet this woman's saying, no, we want National Guard in. We want this done. But Hunter Dunn, white kid, looks like white middle-class kid, typical communist background. Again, we know nothing about him. I can't find out more about a local guy trying to do the right thing here, and they malign him in the media and on the internet. Nothing about him. Scrubbed clean. Hunter Dunn gets his platform to tell about his grassroots organization. It's fascinating. Let's watch the media celebrating all the peaceful stuff going on with No Kings.
Baltimore, of course, not only had a huge turnout for No Kings. Again, it's another one of those cities that Trump is threatening to send the military into it. That, I think, helps goose turnout in any city that he's threatening. It was just huge in Boston, but there were more than 100 No Kings protests in little old Massachusetts. Michigan also had more than 100 No Kings protests this weekend, all over the state, including up into the Upper Peninsula. Here's a look at Ann Arbor up in the upper left, where they had a huge turnout. Also a really big turnout in Detroit.
Was there anything odd about that coverage to you? Did it kind of read like she was doing the weather? Reading a script. Where is she getting all this information from? I mean, are the grassroots people telling her where all the places are? It just doesn't make sense. It seems very coordinated. She's working with the No Kings, the grassroots organization, to show how wonderful and nice and how many demonstrations there are. It's very phony and fraudulent, but effective. So they think they got something now. And again, like I said before, these are, there's a lot of people that are not citizens in these protests to make it look bigger than it is. They're all in liberal cities. And remember, these are the same people protesting for climate change, trans, Palestine, George Floyd. It's just the next issue that is being exploited. Now it's immigration. Really, it's not immigration. It's getting people that are criminals out of the country. And it could have been way more efficient if these same cities would facilitate the process versus in getting away of it and then now have grandmothers being picked up, which I don't know what to believe in that. Again, that's not my goal. If someone's been here for 30 years, I think, no, it wasn't right, but they should have a process to become a citizen so they can participate in this country legally. That's my personal opinion. So the illegals does play a hand into what's going on in our government shutdown, which is going to be the final piece of this puzzle, and another demonstration how the politicians that say they care about everyone, care about no one but their power, and they just marginalize and exploit people. This is the House Whip, Catherine Clark, laying it out there for you.
They're terrible. And of course, there will be, families that are going to suffer. We take that responsibility very seriously. But it is one of the few leverage times we have.
So that's Catherine Clark. It's a leverage thing to her. So all this suffering. You know what the disconnect between the two parties is on opening up the government is whether we're going to fund for healthcare for people who are not citizens. That's the big disconnect. So all the pain and all the suffering that they're so upset about, which they see as leverage, is actually being driven by that. And that's not the message that's getting out. You go to her website, first thing, this is a Republican shutdown. The Republicans have tried to pass a bill many, many times. They're just saying, hey, we're not going to fund this anymore. We cannot fund it anymore. It's not even popular politically. That's why they lie to you and they don't tell you what it's actually about. So covered a lot of ground. We got Antifa that doesn't exist, but actually does exists a long time. Violent organization. We're going to find out who it's funded by. We know who it's funded by, but it's going to become more public. Unfortunately, probably a lot of your tax dollars is funding it. Backdoor through non-governmental organizations that certain billionaires open up, and it gets funded by our government, and this is why they want the crazy spending going on, because the money's not coming from grassroots. The money's coming from you through all this government corruption to fund all this insanity. We talked about the No Kings protests and what's really going on there and the media's involvement in it. And the last piece of the puzzle are the radical people that are now running for office. And we have one here in our backyard in our district here in Illinois. Her name's Kat Abu-Ghazala. I really don't care. She's impressed with her name being long. That's her claim to fame. Look, you'll see how she feeds it into her answer that this journalist is asking about something she's charged federally with some pretty serious stuff. She was at the Broadview ICE detention center, participating with the rock throwing and the screaming and the swearing and the imaging of government property. And pressed on it, here's her response.
So I'm not surprised at what we're seeing. It's exactly what I and my colleagues have warned Democratic leaders about for years. And part of the reason that we're here in the first place is those warnings not being heeded. But it is surreal to be the person on the indictment, especially because my name is really long.
What do you think about those charges, though? They seem really serious. Conspiracy to impede or injure an ICE officer, assaulting or impeding that officer. Those are pretty big charges.
The charges, I think they're actually slightly different, but no matter what the charges are in the indictment, I plan on pleading not guilty. And this is a political prosecution, plain and simple. It's an effort to criminalize free speech, an effort to criminalize free association, and an effort to criminalize the very act of protest. And so we're going to be pleading not guilty, and the evidence will come out in court, and I fully plan on winning.
Yeah, just to be clear, the indictment alleges that you and others, quote, surrounded a federal officer's vehicle, banged on its hood and windows, etched pig on the side, and impeded movement. Did you etch the word pig on the side of an officer's car?
I'm not speaking to the specifics of anything that's in the indictment right now, but like I said, I do plan on pleading not guilty, and the evidence will come out in court, and I plan on winning.
Okay, well, let's watch the video of what happened that day that they are.
Down, down with deportation! Down, down with deportation!
When you see that, what do you think right now?
Tara, once again, this is my first time being federally indicted. Like I said, I plan on pleading not guilty. The evidence will come out in court, and I plan on winning. Thank you so much for having me.
So you heard the long name plug. We got a guy running for senator too in Illinois. That's his plug too. He's got a long name. I don't know what's so special about it, because if your name's Smith, it means you're a racist and you're no good. Real impressive. That's how they handle it. She doesn't like how the conversation's going. She can't lie her way out of it, so she just shuts down the conversation. She cancels. She blocks. Think of all the conversations where you get blocked. Why? Not because they're right, because they don't know what to say. This is a product of the Marxist radical training that's been going on in the schools. This is a child that has been running around screaming about issue to issue like it's the end of the world, not realizing she's been manipulated. Whether it be climate change that you don't hear about anymore. You're not going to hear about it much anymore because the AI giants and the tech companies need power to fund these data centers and AI platforms. They need a ton of power, and they're going to start saying make whatever. They want to burn it. They'll burn whatever, nuclear. They're done with the show and the solar panels. Mark my words. Palestine. What's there to complain about now? Trump made peace. The Palestinians are back in their land. No issue anymore. Now it's to the immigration, and this is the type that's been running around. Now she's not protesting. She's doing everything she says she's not. It's not peaceful. She's being violent. She's being destructive. She's confronted with reality, and the look on her face was she had no problem lying. That's what was so frightening about her eyes. She just lied right to the lady's face, and no remorse, no care. What was she accused of? Getting in the way of federal law being enforced. She wants to be a federal legislator. You get the irony? And she's funded and she's supported. And probably the same money that's supporting the Antifa is supporting her. But I'll leave you with this, because it's no mistake that they call this no kings. They want to make you think Trump's a king, but obviously he's not a king. A king wouldn't have to go through the courts on every single thing, every basic thing to enforce the law, deal with lying, fork-tongued judges that try to twist the law to make everything worse for the citizens. But this is from Matthew 25. When the Son of Man comes in his glory, that's Jesus, and all the angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne. He is a king. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on the right and the goats on the left. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. Then he will say to those on his left, depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. You know, all this thing about identity and division, in the end, there's only two camps. You're the sheep or the goat. You trust the Lord or you trust yourself. There is a judgment day coming. And I pray that you repent and turn back to him. And if not, vengeance is mine, says the Lord. Peace.
Sing it!
Thanks for joining us for another episode. I hope I got you thinking and out of your comfort zone. Believe me, the biggest fear your government has is a population that is thinking and talking to one another. So get out there, take a risk, start a conversation, make a friend, and reason with each other. Share the show with someone who you think needs to hear it. I wish you peace and love.